I have kids ask me this all the time, like, "Hey, Jaxson, when you were our age, who did you go train with?" I said, myself.
Yeah, we did
that. Guys like me didn't exist.
Yeah.
Like, there were no facilities like this. Like, I went to the football field by myself, July 3rd, 145 degrees outside in Houston, Texas, and I ran. That's what I did. I did it by myself.
Hey, welcome to Undefeated. This is Michael Montgomery. I got a special host with a special story. Here we like to talk about things that big on self reflection. And there's a guy who I played ball with and who came up as doing some great positive things for the youth. Jaxson Appel, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, absolutely, Mike. I appreciate the invite.
Oh man, it's a pleasure. I just want to get right to it. I know you're busy. The one thing I always ask my guests when they come on is, we're big on reflection. And what is the hard questions you have to ask about yourself, to know about yourself in order to be successful?
Oh man, we're getting deep right into it, aren't we? Goodness gracious.
Yeah.
Brother, it's too early for all this stuff. Jeez. In what aspect are you talking about? Are you talking about life, like marriage, family, work, spirituality? Like what exactly are you talking about? The reflections.
I think about work because a lot of times, people associate what they do with work. So I just keeping that work aspect of, from what you started and how your road began in college and after the college and into the personal training aspect of it. So what do you think you take away from that? You kind of your foundation for what you work on that sets you apart.
Okay, I think. Let me start with. I talk a little bit about my work and stuff. Like in the public sector, there's not a stream of incoming freshmen, incoming seventh graders, incoming eighth graders. So there's always people don't have to be there, and so you kind of get to the point to where God's going to send the people to you, whatever your circumstances are. So you focus on providing the best product that you can, and just let God send the people to you. Because if He wants them to come to you, then they'll come. If He doesn't, then you don't. And so you can spend a lot of sleepless nights worrying about how many clients you have or people coming into your gym or whatever, but really God's in control, and He's going to send them when He's ready to send them or when you're ready to handle them. So I think that's probably the biggest thing that I've learned from all that I do with this is that God's in control and I really am not. And the quicker I let go of that, the better my quality of life is. But so I say that to say the business started, obviously I played with you at A&M, and then I was with the Tennessee Titans. Now my NFL career was not nearly as illustrious as yours. You were a far better athlete than I ever was. And so I did that. I was just a free agent with them. I didn't make it through camp or anything. I got cut very quickly because looking back on it, I just wasn't good enough, and that's fine. And then I was a college scout for the Houston Texans for a little while, and then I GA'd with A&M, coached the linebackers when Von Miller was there, and under Mike Sherman. And then I came home because I wanted to get married, and then I taught school in a school district here in the South Houston area in League City for 6 years. And then when my wife was pregnant with our third child, we have four. And when she was pregnant with our third child,
oh, congrats!
Thank you. She suffered with postpartum depression with the first two, and so I took paternity leave to stay home and take care of her with the third one, so she wouldn't have to go through that again. And then when the district that I worked for had paternity leave, but it wasn't paid, and so I was off to be home with her, but I wasn't making any money. And so she was like, "Hey, how are we going to live?" And I was like, "Well, I'm not worried about that. 'Cause I'm just going to take care of you. That's my priority." She's like, "Well, that's all well and good, but that's not going to pay the bills." So,
yeah.
She was like, "What about training kids?" And I was like, "No." I was Like, absolutely not. 1,000%. I do not want to do that. I don't want to train kids. I've coached. I had bad experiences. Like, I'm done. I don't want to do it. I'm not doing it. She's like, well, yeah, you are. So she put an ad out on Facebook on like a Tuesday. Is anybody interested in having Jaxson train their kids? You know, and that was a Tuesday. And I think Saturday I was working with 2 6-year-old twin boys at a park by my house. And so it just went from 2 6-year-olds to 3 to 4 to 8 to 12. And the business has just grown, and through God's grace and God's mercy, the business has just exponentially grown, to where we're in a, 5,000 square foot facility. I've trained NFL, first team all pro athletes, college athletes, Baylor, track athletes, A&M, Rice, you know, so we've worked, and it's grown onto itself, and, we're self-sustaining, and thankfully we survived the COVID shutdowns and things. And so, yeah, I mean, we're rocking and rolling, and happy to be here.
And that's amazing. When I was doing research on your company, and you know, you're very unique sector, because, you know, I think what you're doing is foundation, and people need to come to your business because speed, agility, running. You know, a lot of people don't, you know, their form and running is not right. They have all the talent in the world, but as far as their form, their takeoff, you know, the ability to get off the ball, to maximize your steps, it all comes into play on running and getting out of your stance. So what you're doing, you're in a very unique space. I researched, and you spent some time with Plex, with Danny Arnold. Talked about talked about how that experience mentored you in that aspect. Because I believe I went a little bit about me. I trained with Danny my second year after I got out of my first year of NFL, and what he did for me was amazing when it comes to agility and feet work. Talk about that experience.
So I trained with Danny for a little bit, and then I worked with him. And I think the main thing that I took away from it was kind of how to run the business. And so that's the hard part that athletes and guys that played like you and I, when they go in to try and do this, we know the training, we know how it hurts, we know all that stuff, but we don't actually know how to run a business. Running a business is way different than actually like having a kid work out. And so just learning the little ins and outs of how to manage employees, how to pay taxes, how to do your tax ID, and how to do that type of stuff. And so that's kind of what I learned from there, and also kind of how to organize workouts and things like that. But just how to run a business, and to speak to our methodologies. My thought process is the fundamentals are the basis for everything. You know, every gym wants to train the pro athletes, wants to work with the Olympians, wants to work with the high level guys. And I'm not lying. I would too, you know, but there are far more developmental 10, 12, 13, 14-year-olds that need good quality training than there are NFL guys. NFL is less than 1%. Olympians are less than 1%.
Exactly.
And so my philosophy is, let's get with the developmental age athletes, teach them how to move, teach them how to run, proper movement fundamentals, you know, where to place your hands, where to place your feet, how to achieve the proper angles within the framework of your body so you're more efficient. You know, when you're more efficient, you're going to produce more force. So for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction, right? Physics is the best performance coach there ever was. You put more force in the ground, you're going to go faster in the direction that you're wanting to go, whether you want to or not. It's just physics. It's going to happen. And so developing that age group to where they in turn can be lifelong athletes and fundamentally and more efficient, less prone to injury, enjoy the sport better, know how to work out correctly, to where they can take that and then develop into the next level. And so I have a lot of kids that just graduated high school that are going to go play at the next level, like, you know, all the way from D3 up to D1. And my thought process and my goal is, I'm going to get you as ready as you can to compete and do well when you get there. You're going to be healthy, you're going to be fundamentally sound, and you're going to be ready to go to step in to do what they tell you to do. So I'm going to hand off a efficient, well-trained, in shape, healthy athlete to that next level of coach. Be like, hey, now here you go. Now you do what you need to do. I've done my job. And I think a lot of people in my industry are missing that piece. That piece is very important for a lot of athletes, because not everybody's going to be a pro, but a lot of people want to just be really good high school football players, volleyball players, basketball players, soccer players. And those kids deserve good training and good experiences as well.
Hey, that's amazing to hear because, like you said, foundation. And honestly, when I think about, professionals, and I think a lot of times people miss out on the opportunity of giving their effort, playing hard, playing from the beginning of the whistle to the end of the whistle. And a lot of times, we both seen it. You can have the most talent in the world, but if you're not going out there giving it your all, you're not playing hard, you're not playing smart, your opportunities are not going to fall. It's going to fall short. So I always stress that, giving effort. And that's one thing I always saw when we played together at A&M. You played hard, you gave it your all, and I just fed off of it. A guy who flew around and made plays. And I want to go take it back to Friendswood, Texas. A lot of people don't know, you was all state in running back and safety, rushing for over 1,800 yards and 22 touchdowns in 1 year, and district championship. So take us back to how, growing up in Friendswood, your parents, did they push you to play sports? Talk about your parents and how they put in the family life.
They never pushed me. I'm very intrinsically motivated. I've always wanted to be good, and I've always been willing to sacrifice to be good. Now they laid the foundation. They made it possible for me. My dad, I would go work out with my dad. I would work out with my mom, and so they didn't push. They didn't discourage. They said, hey, if you want to do this, you go do this. And so in high school, I remember they said you either train to play football or you get a job. Those are your two options. And so I chose to go work out for football. And I think I have kids ask me this all the time, like, hey, Jaxson, when you were our age, who did you go train with? I said, myself.
Yeah, we did that.
Guys like me didn't exist.
Yeah.
Like, there were no facilities like this. Like, I went to the football field by myself, July 3rd, 145 degrees outside in Houston, Texas, and I ran. That's what I did. I did it by myself. And these kids nowadays are spoiled, and not in the negative sense, because the kids that come in my gym are very intrinsically motivated and they work very hard. The opportunities are there for them to be successful, because there are guys like me and there are facilities like mine that do have the knowledge from my generation, our generation, of doing it by ourselves. We did it by ourselves, and so we have that intrinsic motivation, like, hey, this is what you need to do. And so, like, also a lot of people probably don't know is that I was also a track athlete. Like, I had several offers to go run track at different D1 programs. I was a pole vaulter. I was a 16-foot vaulter in high school. Wow. And so that's where I think the majority of my speed and my ability to run came from, was running track. I think nowadays, kids don't want to run track because they want to go play 7-on-7, which is fine. If you want to go play 7-on-7 because it's fun and that's what you want to do, you're a young kid and you enjoy it, then go do it. But if you're going to play 7-on-7 because you think it's going to make you a better football player, you're fooling yourself. Like, it's not gonna make you a better football player. I did a presentation at a junior high here locally the other day, and in 2018, 87% of the first round draft picks were multi-sport athletes. 73% of those 87, their second sport was track. Oh, wow. And I tell kids, why they were drafted in the first round? Because they were fast. You know why they were fast? Because they ran track. Simple as that, man. I mean, it doesn't make any difference. And so I think my track background and my pole vaulting background really helped develop my speed and my ability, because I'm not a huge guy. You know, I'm 5'10". Heaviest I ever was 195, but I could run. I was fast. You know, I ran a 4.3 coming out of high school. And I attribute that to track, learning how to run it down the runway, doing 40 pole vault attempts, 40-yard sprints every single day after school for 3 years, you know. It helps. And so you just gotta, running and learning how to run is a skill. It can be taught, just like anything else. You know, people say you're either fast or you're not. That is setting kids up for failure, in my opinion. That if a coach tells a kid that, they're doing them such a disservice. Yes. It's like telling a baseball player you can either hit 300 or you can't. Well, no, you go to batting practice for years to get better. Running's the same thing. Just there's not very many people that actually know how to teach it. That's the problem.
Exactly. Because I remember, you know, I had a rude awakening. You know, I thought, you know, I was this big time athlete. I was fast, and I went to the NFL Combine, and you know, I realized that, you know, I wasn't that fast. I wasn't as strong. So I had to work on it. So during my second year, I went to Plex, and that's when Danny Arnold talked about, you know, speed and maximizing your steps. And I do agree, you know, you got to learn how to maximize your steps, you know, moving off, you know, whatever reaction off the ball. Because, you know, as a D lineman, you know, we're taught to, you know, get off the ball, you know, having our feet in it, our hands in the dirt. So I had to understand how, you know, I'm not running a 4.5, you know, or I don't have Von Miller speed. So I had to find out a way to maximize my steps, you know, get my feet in the ground faster and move and learn how to play the game. So I totally 100% agree. You know, running is taught. And there was a story that told me about the Watts brothers that, you know, every summer, you know, all three of them, they would go to speed camp during the summer, and they would work on their speed. So that's how they all kind of like developed. Because, you know, I also believe that, you know, speed and quickness is worked on every day.
Yeah. It's a learned skill. And this is something that bothers me kind of as a generation thing. I see a lot of these kids, they'll go work with these footwork guys, and they'll go run through ladders, and they'll do this. And that's, there's value in that. How much is up to interpretation. I don't think there's a whole lot of value in it, but some other people might, and that's fine. But they'll go do all of that. But what's the one thing that they do when they go to a camp or they go to the combine? They run a 40, right? And so they'll spend 3 years going to these footwork stuff, and then 6 weeks before they have to run a 40, they'll call a guy like me and be like, hey, I got to run a fast 40. What can we do in 6 weeks?
You came too late.
not a whole lot. If you've been coming to me for 3 years, we'd be in a completely different situation, you know. And I think a lot of them are missing the boat. They see all the flashy stuff that the NFL guys do, that DeAndre Hopkins does, Odell Beckham Jr. does, and those other guys. And I tell them, God gave those guys gifts that he didn't give everybody. They can do things that you can't, that I couldn't. And so we have to do things properly. We have to do things fundamentally sound. We have to be technically sound so we can compete with those guys, because God gave them gifts that he didn't give everybody, and that's fine. It's not for us to say what God does with his gifts. It's him. He does what he wants. You know, he doesn't ask us. But we can't mimic those guys because they're different. And so I think that's a trap that a lot of young athletes fall in. They want to train the way that they train instead of training smart and training fundamentally, and to actually make yourself better and put yourself in a position that you can compete.
Exactly. Because, you know, I went, and another thing, I think I went to the combine, and I went the place I was training at, you know, we did all these drills, but we never worked on the drills for the combine. We never did the 40 time. We never did. And leading up afterwards, you know, I remember Terrence Murphy, he was always telling me, hey, come over here. We're working on things in the NFL combine. And the whole time I'm doing all these exercises, and I think I'm good. And when I get to the NFL Combine, all those movements, all those combine reps are foreign to me, because I never practice it. So all that I'm saying that, it's always great to go to a facility like yours that stresses speed, stresses all the fundamental values of speed, hands, hips, everything like that. It's always good to practice what you're going to be doing when you compete. So, and I researched Tim Grove, the personal trainer for Michael Jordan's trainer, and he always he say he researched Michael Jordan's steps for the game, and he kind of tailored games to his game. So is your training is kind of like specialized to train people on the steps they're taking, for instance, or is it tailored to maximize everybody's step abilities?
It's tailored to make them more efficient and make them faster. And so we're as humans, we're designed to move. I mean, we're very cardiovascular. We can go for a long time. We're designed to not fall down, to move in the right direction. And so a lot of the younger population, they spend all day looking at their phone, hunched over like this, sitting in the desk. And so they don't know, because they're not naturally outside playing and figuring out their movement patterns and what they need to do. And that's not a slight at anybody else. That's just is what it is. That's the way the world is today, and we just have to deal with it. And so once you learn how to become efficient and move within the framework of your body, then everything becomes easier. Everything. Walking, moving, running, playing basketball, playing football, playing soccer, playing baseball, everything becomes easier. And so it's just that efficiency part of it. Our body is a series of fascial matrices that are cross. So the slings go across your body. And so a lot of people don't understand that my right shoulder is connected to my left hip. And so if I want to be able to get my hip and my thigh up high enough, then I have to get my shoulder angle up high enough to be the same as that. And vice versa. It's your right elbow, left knee, right wrist, left ankle. And so all of those joints are the same. Like if you take a profile picture from like the start of the final, the 100-meter dash, all of those guys, their angles are going to be the same as they cross their body. So if they're like, let's say their drive leg, their left leg is straight, then their right arm is going to be straight, and so on and so forth. And so when people kind of start to understand the way their body works and the way it's designed to move and enforce production and putting force into the ground and being reflexive out of the ground, using your whole foot. A lot of people run on their toes. If a coach tells you to run on your toes, he's wrong. Don't run on your toes. You run.
I wish I had you when I was telling you, because I think everybody was told that run on your toes. I would walk on my toes. Then say, hoping I can get faster from it. I would have, those shoes that have you on your toes. I would have those shoes.
Oh, those big
the shoes that I was doing everything trying to figure out how to get faster. And and I'm glad, things have evolved for athletes and how, they can maximize, their potential. There's always resources out there. So
just our understanding of the way the body moves and the way the body functions is so much better now than it was. And I train all of my athletes like track athletes, because track athletes are the fastest people on the planet. No matter what sports you want to play, you want to be faster. So I copy what the fastest people on the planet do, and I help you learn how to do it. Not rocket science, It's pretty simple. They're really fast, so let's do what they're doing. You know what I mean?
When I do camps and I work with the D linemen, I always tell them get in a track stance. They're young. I want you to get as fast as you can. Whatever your foot, make sure you're in the proper stance, but think track, think fast. So, it's great to see, and I see you working with a lot of kids and developing that. And I want to go talk about my show. I like to go harp on, making people the best version of themselves. And you remember you talked about it a little bit. Talk about that leap of faith from you venture off and starting your business. Could you just go and just brush on the leap of faith that you had to have to start your own business? Could you just talk about that experience?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely, because I was a teacher, and so you have that steady salary, and you go into it, and you go from a steady income to not knowing if you're going to have an income, because you can make a whole lot of money or you can make zero. It's all dependent on how hard you work. My wife is an entrepreneur, and she works for a independent company, and she hustles and stuff. And so she was really the inspiration for me, because she quit her teaching job and she hustled and she replaced her income. And so I saw her do it. So I drew a lot of inspiration from her, because she's really strong and really dedicated and really motivated in working for Arbonne, the company that she works for. And she makes a good living and supplies well for us as a family. And so I drew a lot of inspiration from that, because my mom and dad were like, hey, you go to work from 9 to 5 and that's all you do. And I think this generation is different. And if my wife hadn't have pushed me to do it, I'll be real honest with you, I never would have done it, because I just wouldn't. So I have to give all the credit to her for the business. But then once I started, I was like, okay, if this is what I'm going to do, this is what I'm going to do. And so I hustled and I grinded and I worked. When I first got started, I would print out flyers and I would walk around Little League football games and I would put them on the doors, and so a lot of people see the end result. They see the 5,000 square foot facility. They see the jerseys, the NFL footballs, the NFL helmets and things in the gym, but they don't see the fact that I was doing it by myself for 3 years. I was training 6-year-olds at a park. I was getting no-showed. I was putting flyers on cars. I was walking up to people trying to get them to see if they wanted to come. I was making phone calls. I was doing all that. See the beginning. They just see the end and they're like, oh, well, I want that. Well, yeah, you can have it. You got to work really hard to get that. Did I lose you there?
No. Oh, no, I'm here.
Okay. And so you got to work to get that. And so it's not instant. We've been doing this for 6 years and we're still growing. We're still figuring this out. I'm still trying to learn as much as I possibly can. And you have to, at the end of the day, like I deciding what I was going to do, I told God, I said, God, I want to do what's best for my family. If this is what you want me to do that's best for my family, then that's what I'll do. And I put my faith in him. And I said, just take the business and do what you want. One of my biggest regrets from my time at A&M was I feel like I wasted my platform. I had a platform to speak to others, to glorify God, to do the things that he wanted me to do, because without him, I wouldn't have been there. He gave me the gifts and those sort of things. And I feel like I wasted that platform because I used it to glorify myself as a selfish 21, 22-year-old. And I told God, I said, hey, I asked him, I said, if you give me another platform, I won't waste it. And so that's what we're doing here. We host an FCA at my gym.
At your old high school.
Bible verses on the walls. And so we're not a Christian gym. We're a gym that is run by Christians. And so we don't Christian music or anything like that. But God is real. God here because of him. And we talk about him in the gym, because if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't be here. Putting your faith in him and putting your faith in doing what he wants you to do and trying to live up to God's principles. If you do that, it doesn't matter what happens. He's going to take care of you and he's going to provide for you.
And that's awesome to hear. I'm glad he was open up to share, because I'm all about just the one thing I made me want to start this platform is how excitement I see in others. I remember the A&M, the Night of Champions thing, and I was just all over the place, and I was excited for other people. I realize I'm a real selfless guy, but I always like to see other people succeed, be happy, do what God has called to them, and just great to see that. Great to see, from people hearing this and making them the best version of themselves. A lot of people need the inspiration, and definitely God has put you in that place to do so. Real quick, I know it's real quick. Just tell people where they can find you, and I'll let you guys know it's super quick. You can tell people where they can find your facility and where they can reach you.
Facility is the address is 15255 Gulf Freeway, Suite 139D. We're off of 45 in Dixie Farm in South Houston, kind of over by Ellington Air Force Base. Our website is jaxsonappel.com, JAXSONAPPEL.com. We're on Instagram at JSAT_speed, and email jaxsonappel@yahoo.com. And so that's us, and come out and check us out and see what we can do for you. Cause we work with all level of athletes. It's kind of funny. I had a competitive shooter in the gym the other day, and he's been working for 2 weeks, and his dad came in and he said he set personal best on all of his shooting. I have no idea what that is, but his dad came in and said, hey, he got better because he came in here, he was in better shape, he was stronger, he was more efficient as an athlete because of what you guys did. So I was like, all right, hey, rock on, man. So we work with everybody. It doesn't matter if you're 6 or 66. If you want to be a better athlete and you want to feel better in your body and you want to move better, we can certainly put something together for you.
Oh, exactly. Well, thanks again. I really, really appreciate you for coming. Just any way I can help, just let me know, and we'll see you for the next episode. Thanks again, Jaxson.
Absolutely, Mike. I appreciate it, bud. You have a good day.
All right, you too.